Yes, yes, how are we? Bunch of rude boys, the most awkward kid on camera is back. Haven't done a YouTube video in forever, but today I'm planning on doing a mic'd up upper session, but I haven't thought this through at all because my mic's about to die. So game plan will be to do it mic'd up until the mic cuts, and then I'll just do a voiceover. But first things first, getting into some midsection work. I've been doing this at the start of all my sessions now. One, it allows me to get into the right headspace before I actually train, but also I found huge benefits doing this first prior to training. 3 sets there, 10 to 15. Now move forward into some planks. So hold a minute each side, right, left, then front, then repeat that twice. So 2 rounds, and then we'll get into the actual session. I hate doing these, and I am unbelievably weak shaking Stevens, mate. But since I've started doing this, I can't even get my words out, doing this kind of routine at the start of all my sessions, I've seen a big difference, not only within my movements within the session, I just feel way more locked in and solid and stable, but also I've seen quite a big difference in the look. And the voiceover begins. Sat down on the pec deck and the mic's died straight away. Sensational. This is the first time I'm doing a voiceover. How exciting. First exercise of the session, pec deck. Taking 3 working sets here, rep ranges. First one, 10 to 12, followed by 6 to 8, followed by 12 to 15. Now, is there anything magical about those rep ranges? Not at all. I just like working within the rep ranges on the pec deck. Funnily enough, all I'm thinking about here is driving that elbow hard across the midline being sternum, and of course driving that bicep hard into the side of my chest. Using the D handles here just to improve alignment. It allows free motion at the wrist, elbow and shoulder. Now, a big mistake people make here is when performing the pec deck, they perform it when they're in a large degree of elbow flexion. So when they finish each rep, their hands are together, but their elbow's nowhere near midline being the sternum, and their biceps nowhere near the side of their chest. Therefore, they're not getting the pec as short as they could. They're not getting it as contracted as they could, which is a bit of a problem, mate. So if you are currently performing it with a big bend in the elbow, stop doing that, help yourself out and get a wham chest. All these sets are performed to failure. As you can see here, I do believe I'll go for another. Yeah, you're not getting that one, big man. Pipe down. Second exercise of the session, reverse banded incline Smith. You might be thinking, what is this kid doing, putting bands on movements? What's going on here? Well, the reason I'm doing this is to improve the resistance profile. I want that resistance profile to match my strength profile as closely as possible. So where I'm at my strongest, I want the machine to be at its heaviest. Where I'm at my weakest, I want the machine to be at its lightest. Taking 2 working sets here. First working set, 6 to 8. Second working set, 10 to 12. I had a proper battle with this one. Initially, took progression quite frequently on it, which is expected when you put a new movement pattern in, but it has slowed right down. So now it's a real battle to take a rep progression here and there. But it is moving in the right direction, so you are going to continue to keep it in the rotation. I'm using a reverse action cue here, so I'm just thinking about drawing myself hard back into the bench rather than the bar away from me. Moving forward into the first back movement of the session, supinated lat pull down. Now I'm positioned slightly further back than normal on this bit of kit, again just to improve the resistance profile, so I feel a decrease in resistance as I move into that shortened range. This one has also been a bit of a battle, raced up to 3 plates, but ever since it's slowed right down, but we're keeping it in. We're taking progression as frequently as possible. When performing this, all I'm thinking about is driving the elbow down to the base of my spine or keeping the shoulder locked down to the hip. Now, as you fatigue here, it's very easy to start to rotate at the hip rather than just continue to drive that elbow down. But you really want to think about driving those feet hard into the floor to create that stable base. The more stability we have, the more force we can produce. And of course, if we've got that stable base, we're less likely to start rotating at the hip. We want to keep square on. Moving forward into a lying cuff lateral raise. Love this movement. Taking 4 working sets here because I want some massive shoulders, mate. 10 to 15 is the rep range across the board. Managed to progress all 4 within this session. Now, when I'm performing a line cuff lateral raise or like a cuff fly, anything on the cable really, I make a note in my logbook of what the cable height is and like roughly where the bench is at as well, just so I can keep these setups as consistent as possible. Just focusing on driving out wide towards the walls here. Super simple cues, and again going until I can't drive out wide anymore. I tried to drive out the bottom of this one and it wasn't looking good, brev. Didn't want to move, so we called the set. Now we move into a cross body tricep extension. Big fan of this movement pattern due to the alignment. You can get alignment on point here. Super simple cues. I'm just thinking about driving down towards the floor while keeping the elbow in relatively the same position the entire time. Taking 3 working sets here. Rep range 10 to 15. As we see there again, concentric tempo starts to slow down involuntarily, which is what we want to see. Then it gets to the point where I can no longer perform a rep. Moving forward into behind the back diagonal cable curl. Again, super similar cues. Thing about keeping the elbow in relatively the same position the entire time and just driving hands towards the ceiling. Happy with where conditions at currently. Your boy is in his off season, pushing up, but we're keeping condition in a pretty decent spot. Again, calling the set when I can no longer perform accurate reps, when I no longer have control over the entire range. And once this is boxed off, we move into mid to upper back pull down. Now this would be placed after the supinated pull down, but a proper rude boy was on it and I didn't want to wait, so I just changed the exercise order. Is it ideal? No. Is it the end of the world? No. I'm taking 3 working sets here, 10 to 15, just focusing on driving the elbow behind the body to bias that upper back because we want that big lumpy upper back. And that is session done. Overall good session, took progression on most movements. I think the only thing that stalled was reverse band incline Smith. Everything else I managed to find progression on, which is sensational. Excuse the hairband. I've had it in since my morning shower and I'm probably looking pretty rough. I hope the voiceover gave you a bit of an insight into the thought process behind performing the exercises the way I am. I'm back on the YouTube now. This is the return. Game plan is to record current training rotation that's in place, give you guys a bit of an insight into that, and just document general progression. I'm in my last push-up until my first competitive season, that competitive season being 2024. So I'm a skinny little boy now, so you might as well watch the videos to see how this skinny little boy gets more muscle. But remember to like, subscribe, comment if you're feeling dangerous, and I will see you in the next one.